Hey,
Well, hello. Hi, Pat. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the
we
Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat.
I'm Pat.
I'm Lila. And I don't have a green screen today, so you're seeing all the shadows and the inelegant lights of a hotel room down in Orange County. Coming
That's
to you
right.
live from Orange County.
You are on vacation and not a staycation. I mean, you're sort of in LA still, but you're not at home. You're out in the real world with the real COVID.
I I I am so happy you brought that up because yes, truly the real COVID where no one wears masks anywhere and little kids are crawling on the ground in the hallways with no mask on, just sucking in
Nice.
COVID. It's a little terrifying. My family and we seem to be the only people who wear masks anywhere apart from when I guzzle down my drinks, which are in a coffee cup, but still representing, oh, I just lagged, but I'm still representing. Still representing. Um,
Nice.
cheers. What are you drinking there, Pat?
Oh, so cheers. I mean, we're going to get into Cuomo a little bit, but in honor, so I have a new thing I'm going to start doing for the show, which is matching a local beer to something in our show, something in the news.
God, you get
So
fancier every week. Okay.
yeah, because I'm bougie. I'm not bougie like your wine, but this beer probably does cost as much as that bottle of wine. But
I'm cheap
here's
when it comes to the alcohol. Yeah.
it's a local beer. I'm sticking with local breweries because Sacramento has some amazing breweries.
Yeah.
In honor of Cuomo, this is from Crooked Lane. That's the brewery, and Give and Go is the label. So
Oh my. On
it's
so many
perfect.
levels. That's disgusting. Does it taste like sex pest as you
Like
drink it?
corruption.
Yeah.
I cannot attest to that from experience, but I assume it's foul. But no, it's a good beer. It's hazy. So I don't know if there's correlation to Cuomo there. Maybe I don't know. Crooked Lane though. I just made sure to get Crooked
Cricket.
Lane
I
when I
think that's
saw it.
yeah. I mean, so there's so much to talk about. I know we're going to get to Cuomo, but I do feel like there's some stuff to talk about. I'm really curious why this is happening now with Cuomo. I just have to say, like, I keep thinking about it. He killed 30,000 people by sending old people back to, assisted living places and
But that
allowed places to like write their own protection from the law. That was a blip. Nobody cares. He got to
eh,
write a whole like how I handled COVID, right? And he was the quote Cuomo-sexuals, and all the
right.
libs on Facebook were in love with him and were mad at me if I ever said anything about him. And this is bad. I mean, he's disgusting, but like innocent Italian beer somebody just wrote. But like,
Nice.
why now? I'm so curious.
Well, I mean, they couldn't call him out when he was on national television every day being the anti-Trump. I mean, the fact that Democrats held this guy up as the hero, as the anti-Trump, like listening to science guy. Meanwhile, everyone in nursing homes was dying. He was completely irresponsible. He's been one of the most corrupt, openly corrupt,
For
and New
decades.
York, yeah, and New York politics is in general. But I
Yeah.
mean, this guy is the poster child uh, next to Rahm Emanuel. He's one of the worst, most openly corrupt Democrats, and always has been. And he was chosen to be the representative of the Democratic Party to counter Trump. And he blew
Yeah.
COVID. He's sexually assaulting and harassing people like crazy. He's got
He
a toxic work environment.
pushed
He is
Republicans to like decimate progressives in New York. I mean, he's been disgusting for decades.
he's the most Trumpy guy we probably have, and they put him up as the opposite of Trump. Like it
Yeah.
makes no sense.
So, okay. So, two things. One, I really am so curious why they're taking him down now. And my feeling is that it's because Biden's doing such a horrific job handling COVID nationally that they want the spotlight away from anything like that. And here they get to say, oh, we have accountability for our own. This is what Democrats do. This is how we handle it. I think that might be part of it. The other part of this story that is so vile to me is it shows that once again, Time's Up, run by Anita Dunn, which is a nonprofit organization meant to help victims, did this catch and kill approach where victims come to them, they take all the information on Lindsay Boylan and then try to smear her while running interference and covering for the sexual predator. So now we know that Anita Dunn did that for Weinstein, for Harvey Weinstein. She did it for Cuomo. And we know, because it's been documented, that she did it for Biden with Tara Reade. And that part of it seems to be not getting enough press to me.
Well, because she's a hero. She's an unwritten hero to the Democratic Party because she protected these people. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They will forever. They will use the excuse that Trump is worse, and that's what matters. I mean, I was listening to NPR earlier today, which I do. Unfortunately, I don't know what I'm twisted like that. But
you're a masochist.
But you really hear the subtle spin when you listen to a program that is largely leftist, but they still add their touch to it. So they were attacking Cuomo, which is now fair game, which is the interesting part of this all, is that now it's fair game. But what they did is they were making it a problem with New York politics, a problem with all political leaders, with men in power. It was all,
like a broad.
They were never like, this is a Democratic Party problem,
right,
which is what they should be doing. This is the fact that the Democratic Party propped this guy up with all these problematic things happening that were out in the open. I mean, just because this report just came out doesn't mean that this stuff hasn't been common knowledge forever. And
exactly.
So that's how they try to downplay it, is look at this is something we need to just change about politics. It's not really a Democratic thing.
Yeah, it's really too bad. And, I don't think that Me Too would have been born when it was, if Trump hadn't come into power. I feel like, if Hillary had become president, she would have been up on that stage with her sexual predator husband, with Harvey Weinstein, with a whole bunch of people who have disgusting histories we all know about, but which were sublimated in order, to advance the Democratic Party. And once she lost, it gave people the sort of like an arena of outrage where they could speak out against it, and everyone sort of talked about it, and Me Too started. And then as soon as Biden became the nominee, we killed Me Too. We killed Medicare for all. We killed the $15 minimum wage. We killed the Green New Deal. We killed canceling student debt. It feels, again, like, I'm not an accelerationist, but boy, this is whatever the opposite of accelerating is. This is what we're doing.
Well, we're accelerating. It's a accelerating car wreck is what it is. The climate for one is, you saw that the report recently that said no matter what we do, the best we could do is contain it to a 1.5 degree increase in global
with
warming.
Drastic measures that nobody is willing to take.
Yeah, it's off the table now.
Yeah.
And, it's off the table because if it's not off the table, then Democrats, this is their argument. I mean, this is their subtle argument behind the scenes, is that it has to be off the table because we'll lose elections as Democrats if we don't cater to some of these positions, and some of the things we're going to talk about later. The one common thread I noticed is that you're getting a lot of this defund the police thing from, defund the police is bad now, is the message from Democrats, and they're very not for defunding the police. And it's the same argument. It goes to like, well, yeah, we probably are, wink, wink, but it's not playing politically. So we have to be against defund the police, so the things that we need.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but all the things that we need and that people are on the left very much aware of, don't play well with the Republicans. So that's reason to get rid of these policies as Democrats, is what we're being told.
That's what we're being told, but I don't even buy it, because when, I know we famously know that when Fox does those polls, a majority of their viewers are actually on board with all the progressive policies that Bernie was running on. So the only people who are not in favor of these policies are the big business lobbyists who both parties answer to, our elected officials answer to. And, I do think like this is what happens when you have no ideology. You can get up there and say, oh, we're all for Medicare for all, just like Bernie. Everybody up here, 22, candidates running for the Democratic nomination. We're all just as progressive as Bernie. And then as you start chipping away and really kind of trying to follow up, they're just blowing in the wind, right? So that's where you get access or, Medicare for all who want it, or, and so speaking to what you were just talking about with Cory Booker, like for him to get up there, and I know now he's trying to say that he was making fun of whatever that Republican guy's name was. But the truth is, there's a way to make fun of him without. Oh God, I just blew a whole segment. That's what happens when you're on vacation and drink too much. Anyway,
that's all right.
That's all.
Literally, we're going to get into Cory Booker. We're going to get into Biden's
don't put any money on it because I'll get in trouble for the table there.
It's all right. We have no plan. We have a plan pre-show, but I have to push these buttons on my end, and it's complicated because I'm drinking alcohol. So,
and I just want to give you a huge shout out, and everyone should know that Pat has been an amazing co-host, co-producer this week. When I said I was going away for a few days, and he said, drink more, think less. I'm taking care of the whole show this week. And thank you. Unless the show sucks and then cheers. What the fuck? No, I'm kidding. No, I'm joking.
We're not going to air it. Actually, this is not even live. This is just to placate you and make you feel like the show went on.
I'm doing thank you. No, seriously, my friend. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
No, you're awesome. You deserve a vacation and should enjoy your vacation. The fact that you're even here, I mean, the grift must go on because we make so much money from the show. So it's very important. We don't even have a Patreon up yet. So, but we're grifters. I mean, if you talk to a lot of people online, we haven't even
figure out how to do it.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into the news a little bit. I mean, we did already, but speaking of your vacation, there's COVID out there and COVID everywhere. And
let's of how we're handling it.
Let's just check in on COVID.
Oh.
Let me get that graphic off.
Something. I'd like to go to Nebraska. Nebraska looks good to me. It's that white spot there that doesn't count any of their COVID cases.
Right.
Nebraska
not reporting things is amazing. And that's Biden's strategy as well, because was it March where they stopped reporting the crossover cases where people with COVID get COVID, people vaccinated get COVID?
They're not counting any breakout cases, or they didn't for a while unless they were hospitalized, which is of course anti-science. Yeah.
Right. And so inevitably, I mean, you see that Florida dark red, blood red color there. That's coming our way. It's coming. I mean, I'm in California, so I don't know where you are. I know Lila's in California, but our viewers, I don't know. But it's inevitable that this spreads from here. That's just what happens. I mean, all these maps are predictable.
And so the administration did this thing of saying it was a pandemic of the unvaccinated, which, trying to just pit everybody against each other, of course, because that's what everybody in power tries to do. So we can all fight it out amongst each other. But what they neglected to say was everybody under 12 isn't vaccinated. Also, as our emergency rooms fill up, which they are doing across the nation, every other emergency room visit is put on hold. So if you get a heart attack, if you break a leg, if you have a herniated disc, if you have anything that needs critical attention, you're SOL. There's no room for you. So it's not, to make it sound like, oh, well, it's just going to be the unvaccinated and fuck all of them, which, by the way, is what Trump used to do, right? He would say, well, California didn't vote for me, so I'm not going to help them with their wildfires. And basically that's what Biden did. Well, it's the South and it's the Trump voters and they're not vaccinated, so screw them. Well, it's it's a bigger problem with that.
But meanwhile, as you said, schools are opening. Under 12 kids are not vaccinated. And, kudos to California. At least they're making teachers get vaccinated or take a test every week. They just announced that today. They're one of the first states to do that.
Yes.
And I mean, I understand that mandatory vaccinations and vaccine cards and whatnot, vaccine passports, it's problematic. I don't know where I land on it exactly, but I think if you're going to be working for the government and in the public and responsible for raising, teaching kids and whatnot, I think it's pretty reasonable to expect you to be vaccinated. So I don't have a problem.
100%. Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with any business implementing that policy that their employees need to be vaccinated. That's it. That's where I land on it.
Like, I understand there's some reasons that some people can't get vaccinated, but at least there should be the testing and contact tracing, right? Like, there has to be some sort of measure in place to track what the spread of the virus. I mean, there just has to be.
Right. And to me, it would be a different scenario if kids under 12 were all vaccinated. If it becomes a situation where only rare people in the population, I mean, a smaller percentage, people that can't get vaccinated, can't whatever, I understand that at some point you have to open your society up. But to do it when kids under 12 aren't vaccinated is just, it's just cruel and it's corruption. I mean, I just can't fathom it. I don't know. I don't want to get mad this show, so let's just move on.
Okay. Vacation. You're in vacation mode with me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the documents show that the CDC is they're already trumping Biden. They're pulling what they started to do about leaking documents on where Trump was failing the public, and they're doing it with Biden. Because Biden, he went out and they were making the public message, and it's obviously planned spin when you have the vice president. I mean, the vice president, the president's wife, the first lady, out there pushing isn't it great to take your masks off and you can rejoin the world. And they pushed that too early. I mean, they pushed that. That's going to be the Biden administration's mission accomplished moment. That's going to shame them. And
yeah. And what's important about this article from the World Socialist website is that it comes right after the Washington Post published those leaked documents from the CDC. And the difference is the Washington Post made it sound like, listen, the science has changed. The CDC, these are some leaked documents from the CDC. And this is why now we're telling people to mask up and we have to go back to our mitigation strategies or some mitigation strategies. But what they neglect to say in the Washington Post article, which they do draw a light to in this World Socialist website, is that it's revealed that the Biden administration knew about how dangerous Delta was, as of course any of us who read a paper knew way back in May, because they were tracking what was happening in Israel and in the UK with the Delta variant. So they knew about it, and they still went on to say, Andy Slavitt, go live your best life, take off your masks, go enjoy. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And what this is doing is it's revealing, because even the Washington Post is running interference, of course, for Biden and his administration, saying, well, it's new data. It's not new. They knew about it before they told everybody to go live a normal life.
Yeah. And that's exactly the point, is that they're not listening to science. They're listening to polls somewhat. They're listening to projections. They're listening to their donors that want the society opened up so that they can continue the profits. They're seeing all the economic devastation happening in Europe, which is always ahead of us when it comes to coronavirus. All the benefits that were starting to show from the economy coming back to life are already being peeled away in Europe because they have to shut down again. And it's inevitable. It's going to happen here. I don't know that we're going to shut down, but I know that we should. That's where we're at already, at least until we get kids vaccinated, in my opinion. But
yep, absolutely.
What else we got? Let's just keep this thing going here.
Yeah, keep going. I'm looking at what Count Monte Cristo, Punch Up Pod. No one is discussing CDC and PubMed releases regarding COVID-19 comorbidities either. I wish I knew exactly what you're saying, and I don't, so I'm going to just leave it up there for a second. But yeah, they're missing out on a lot of stuff. Sorry, well, I'm not sure what exact angle you're taking. I will say that this week has seen the biggest increase in kids being hospitalized, and we know that long COVID is a serious issue that exists in like I think a third or 40% of COVID cases, even if they're not severe,
Right.
they have long COVID issues. And again, like that's horrible. It's especially horrible in a country that is not guaranteeing healthcare to its people. So what do you do when you start having organ failure and
Right.
sleep issues? Or I mean, like, we have no healthcare designed to help our people. So long COVID's going to
Right.
be
And the not stunning, but the Hill is pretending it's stunning, is that a new report ranks the U.S. dead last in healthcare among the richest countries, despite spending the most. And if you've been following our healthcare, you've known that for a long time. But it's kind of interesting that this story would come out as this is some stunning new report. I mean, we've been terrible at healthcare for ages,
yeah.
and
It feels like this came out and it was a blip, and then we hear, 6 stories about the Olympics and how like the Russian coach was so angry that like it feels like the Olympics is a sensationalized sort of media, diversionary tactic. And I guess that's why I keep coming back to the Cuomo thing. Is it feels like there are so many more important. It's disgusting. Cuomo's disgusting, but again, we've known that for a long time. There is one atrocity after another coming out every day during this Biden administration. They get no play on mainstream media. We just keep like it's just like assault after assault, and we're being directed to a million different places.
right.
Wait,
And Cuomo, and maybe that's why, when you ask yourself, when you bring up the question, why are they hanging Cuomo right now? Maybe that's it. Maybe that diverts a lot of attention to Cuomo and away from this other stuff. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, he would have had a prolonged fight that they could have made a story for a long time. But then the longer you make a Me Too kind of story about Cuomo, the longer there are parallels to Biden himself that need to be addressed.
yeah.
So I think this was the best way to kill the story. And,
It felt like for a
temporarily.
that Cuomo was going to try and take Biden down with him. Like when he released those pictures of Biden also kissing all the little girls, but I guess they squashed that.
We should have pulled that. That would have been epic to show, right?
That's like if you want to vomit in your mouths before you have your second cocktail. Speaking of,
the thing is, I think everyone who's at least watching this show is well aware of Biden's creepiness, but just that Cuomo went there, it was a power play, and he lost that power play, which
shows
I think maybe that's a piece of it too. Is that Biden, he does have power. I mean, he's the president, so yeah.
Wait, you mean he does have power to do something about anything, and he's using it to shut down?
I mean, he literally could fulfill like 50% of his campaign pledges by just signing documents.
In spite of the parliamentarian, amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't even need to get the Senate and Congress involved for half these things. Now, if you sign something that's illegal as an executive order, then it can be challenged in the courts and the Supreme Court could overrule it. But even that process is a long process. But if you do something like forgive $50,000 of student loans, which is not enough,
for all of them, all of it,
which is by far not enough, but that's a pretty clear power that he has to do. I mean, he just this week they extended the deferment on federal student loans, which they play this up like that they deserve some medal for it. And it, like, this is the problem, is that Democrats, they take something like that and they use that to say he's doing a lot and it buys them time. He's doing something good. But Betsy DeVos, the biggest villain on earth in politics, probably, who was Secretary of Ed under Trump, she did that. So this is not like anything that they do is
hero. Yeah.
You're not a hero for doing that. You're doing the bare fucking minimum.
Yeah.
And it's actually it's good for the economy too,
It's
because
good for the economy, even if you don't care about people.
right, which is why Betsy DeVos did it.
Right. But also, even if you do something illegal like bombing Somalia, bombing Syria, how about how we just bombed Afghanistan yesterday, killing 20 civilians on our way out the door? That's all illegal. But somehow he's comfortable doing all of that and just seeing like, oh, is it going to come to the courts? And it never does, because of course our courts don't ever care when we are exercising our military muscle. So if you have, again, it always comes back to ideology. If you actually care about something, you might do something illegal and wait for the courts to take over while you're helping people. But it's never going to happen. All right, let's see our graphic. I know it's time. Moving on.
Yeah, so we're moving on to just briefly. I mean, this week, obviously, the infrastructure bill is a hot topic, but it's gonna be dragged out for a few more weeks probably. But it passed the Senate. I think we're waiting on it in the House. The Senate,
Yeah.
I mean, House Democrats are threatening to withhold their votes, which is interesting. I don't know.
I love it. Good, do
Let's
it.
go.
Yeah, they're threatening to withhold their votes if this is not tied to a guaranteed reconciliation bill, right? And I will say, so Katie Porter, who I think is great with her whiteboards and yada yada. I don't know what she's actually accomplished, but I do like her viral moments. Anybody who is a supporter of Elizabeth Warren during the primaries makes me really feel skeptical about their whole approach to politics, which Katie Porter was. And I will say, I am thrilled that, I mean, I don't know how much Sunrise Orange County is representing the full national Sunrise movement, but that they called her out on this, because this bipartisan bill leaves out billions of dollars. Look at that. I mean, that graphic just shows you what is gone to waste and what we are just leaving behind. And so to tout that bipartisanship is somehow something we should all be aspiring to. And again, bipartisanship, when they're saying that, it's just the fancy people in Washington shaking hands across an aisle. That's not representing bipartisanship on the ground. Like, people on the ground want a Green New Deal. They want Medicare for all. They want to cancel student debt. They want to legalize marijuana. So bipartisanship, when they talk about that, it just means that they're fucking all of us. That does not mean that they're working for the broad communities in our country.
Yeah, I mean, if they were, I mean, we'd get a vote on Medicare for all, which has 70% support. I mean, the idea
nationally, that not just, I mean, like across the board, nationally.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with Democrats. It floats around 80 to 90 something there, but
yeah,
if the Democrats aren't going to bring Medicare for all up for a vote during a pandemic, how are we going to get it to a floor vote after the pandemic? I mean, I guess things will just, the bills people that have COVID run into, maybe society will be so depressed and in need of it that eventually we get it. But I mean, your job as Democrats right now is to push for the biggest problem facing America, which is, for most people, and in a pandemic, it's our shitty fucking healthcare system. And Democrats are not
internationally.
Yeah, it's known by everybody. No, it's no secret. Republicans know our healthcare system sucks because they live their lives. That's the one thing that all the spin on TV doesn't really work for, because they all know that our healthcare system fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, Count Monte Cristo is back with his
had to pull up data. Tagged you both in the comorbidity tweet. No policy agenda except for all people to receive non-censored, full scope of objective data from same sources. Pat, I'm sending that over to you because I've had 3 Mai Tais and 2 glasses of wine so far. And
no, I'm glad he got his point in. We are moving on.
Wait, but thank you for putting it out there. Or maybe I've been overserved and I gotta really evaluate exactly what you're saying.
No, totally. But unfortunately can't look at the data right now. That's the only, that's the caveat to it.
But thank you.
So we're going to get into,
let's go.
Let's go to Biden's first 200 days.
Yeah. Oh, hey, props up. Biden's first 200 days.
Yes. And first off, kudos to, here it is, they count as, it's holding Biden accountable at waiting on Biden. So we saw this thread and thought, well, shit, we should do that. And then we thought, let's do some research. And then we thought, let's just go through his thread, because why not give him credit, him or her credit?
Man woman has already done it for us. So thank you. Yeah. Props. Pat and I did tweet it to each other at the same time at 3 a.m. last week. So we're all on the same page. All right, so let's see it. Today, and this was a couple of days ago, was the 200th day of the Biden administration. So pour one out. Let's see. Are we just going to watch him stumble up the stairs?
I think we should just watch this GIF on loop for the next hour.
Well, here's the big difference between you and me: is I say GIF.
GIF is the appropriate. I mean, I understand it's wrong to say GIF, but I hate saying GIF. It reminds me of GIF, which we're not going to get into. But
oh boy, here we go.
Yeah. So first tweet, I can barely read it because I have this stuff on screen as a producer.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and tell you. It was the stimulus checks, $2,000, and we actually only got $1,400. But a third stimulus check, Biden promised $2,000 checks go out the door if Democrats win in Georgia. That didn't happen.
Right.
Number one.
I mean, we had that fight. It was interesting because even people that I know in real life who are bougie elite Democrats, bougie elite progressives, one in particular entered my DMs and told me to shut up about the $2,000.
Wow.
And I, without calling her out specifically by name, I actually did share some of her horrible tweets, horrible messages to me, because I just wanted to show the bougie side of politics of people that, they might support Democrats, but they're not feeling the pain of the difference between $2,000 and $1,400. And let me tell you, the Democrats base feels that pain, and that's where they fail us over and over. And to start his first term off, or his only term, hopefully, off with a failed, clear as day promise that he had all the control in the world over. It's not like there was a reason.
Yeah. And a lot of people have pointed this out on Twitter, but if you're going to say, well, the 2,000 counted the 600 from Trump in December, then the 620,000 deaths that we've had should count the 400 from Trump. You can't keep squashing the numbers any which way. You either are taking over and it's the Biden administration and this is what we're doing for you, or you're saying, hey, we're all in this together, which I'm fine with. But then the 622,000 deaths are all on Biden. You can't do both ways.
Right. And when you try to spin people that need the help, it doesn't work. You're trying to, this person that needs $2,000 that knows that the $600 difference is their car payment or their rent for next month or their child care. Spin doesn't work. So this is just a huge mistake out the gate from him.
Really gross.
Forgiving student debt. Yeah. Obviously he failed in that.
Anyway,
moving on. We all know he's
$15 minimum wage.
Raising the minimum wage. So he had how many opportunities so far? I mean, the reconciliation process, as we know, does not involve Republicans. It's where you go alone you only need a majority in the Senate to pass a bill through reconciliation. You have 2 opportunities this year to do that. And as we see, the $15 minimum wage is in neither of those bills.
They squandered everything. And we saw with the Punch Up Boys, or not Punch Up Boys, sorry, that's us, the podcast boys, the Pod Save boys, the Pod Saves America boys. And they do this whole thing like the president's not the Green Lantern. He can't just make stuff happen. But you have to decide, like, does he have a bully pulpit? Can he hold out some carrots or some sticks? I mean, you don't say that Manchin is the guy who's in the way of our getting a $15 minimum wage and then give his wife some cushy job right after he comes out against helping you, right? Like, it's all just a farce.
Well, it's failure on so many levels because he ran as this reach across the aisle guy who said that, a lot of the Republicans, they're just radical under Trump, but they're going to come back to normal under his administration, basically. And that's bullshit. But then he can't even control. You got Manchin and Sinema are heroes to the Democratic Party because they're going to be fake resisting him forever. I mean,
right.
Yeah,
Manchin's already coming out against the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill of like Bernie's bill, basically.
Yeah, of course. But the point is that Biden didn't, in the first reconciliation bill, he didn't even try to reach out. Reports are that he didn't even talk to Manchin. So, there was no
signal to governors of other states that like it wasn't going to pass. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't sweat it. And the progressive crew, squad, whatever. So when do they take up this fight? I mean, we were told that force the vote was wrong because they should hold their leverage. This is straight from AOC, literally in writing on Twitter. This is not some bullshit I'm making up because I hate the squad or the AOC or whatever. Her rationale was she's holding out on using their leverage for something that is doable in the first 100 days, such as a $15 minimum wage or progressive Democrats taking leadership positions within the party, which neither happened in the first 200 days. And now we're at the second reconciliation bill, and there's literally no talk about $15 minimum wage, not even talking about it.
And $15 minimum wage, obviously, I know we all know this who are watching the show, but like not even a living wage. So the fact that we're not even talking about something that's basically half of what a living wage is just horrific.
Yeah. Okay. So we got to keep moving because we don't want to. This is a lot. I mean, we're not going to get to all of them probably because to hell with it.
Check with this holding Biden accountable, because if you're looking at what's happening, I know none of our viewers is really looking at what's happening on mainstream media, but it's the headline presidency. They're talking about this infrastructure bill as the most progressive bill. They're still doing that on mainstream media. It's the most progressive bill. And Bernie's bill, the reconciliation, that's the most progressive. And listen, I still am one of those people. I still adore Bernie. I do absolutely think that he believes in these policies that he's been talking about for 40 years. But let's not pretend that that's going to be enacted without major concessions to Republicans and right-wing Democrats. It's just not going to happen.
Right. And my view on Bernie is, I still love the guy, but he's in a different role. He's not in the rally the people on the outside role that he was. He's not in that role. He's in the negotiate for what the Democrats can get on the inside. Right. Our job on the outside is still to push for all the shit Bernie would have pushed for if he was an independent. He's still an independent, but if he had no power himself, he would be screaming for the things that we should be screaming for.
Right.
His job being that close to Biden, I would love it if he called Biden out more directly, but we're not going to get that from him. And we have to face that, is my point. So we have to amplify voices that keep doing that in lieu of Bernie, because to expect it from Bernie in his role now, it's clear we're not going to get that much. That's all right.
Scrolling.
So Biden promised he would lower the Medicare eligibility age and implement a public option. I mean, lowering the Medicare eligibility age is happening in this next bill in theory, if it doesn't get kicked out, and that's great. good for that. But
just feels like such a small concession.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is what's going to come back to really haunt Democrats, because what's the line between DeSantis and Biden at this point? I mean, Biden is saying wear masks and get vaccinated, and DeSantis is saying don't. But when you look at the numbers of people who are getting affected by the disease or the virus, like I mean, I don't know that that's going to be enough to distinguish Democrats from Republicans in 2022 on any level.
No, and everything COVID falls on Biden now. I mean, you can try to blame DeSantis in Florida, but nationally, the policies that are going to affect us all are going to fall on Biden. Whatever the outcome is going to fall on Biden. It's going to kill Democrats in the midterms. All the hypocrisy is going to be pointed out left and right on Republican radio, TV. They're just going to show side by side Biden and Trump, and our guy's so bad, but look at what Biden did.
I mean, show that red map with like everybody just dying. It's crazy. Yeah. No to, what is that? Medicare for all. So this is actually, I mean, this is such a big deal, because even as our country is bleeding out, and it is, and we're doing a horrific job of protecting our own citizens, but the rest of the world is languishing, and the poorest countries are not getting protection from vaccinations. Biden said, even though I don't support Medicare for all, I'm definitely going to ensure that the vaccine and the raw materials needed to make it are going to go out to the rest of the world, that we're going to provide, the ability to make millions, billions of vaccinations. And that's not happening because, of course, Bill Gates got his psychopath billionaire mindset in there, and he and the WHO, influenced WHO and all of his other NGOs, and we're not protecting the world. And in an environment where we are a global trade, and people are traveling all over the globe, and we are not protecting the least amongst us, it's horrible when it happens in our own country, but that extends to the rest of the whole world. And I don't really understand what the long-term plan here is, except for go hide in a money cave.
Right. Well, the unvaccinated, the more a population is unvaccinated, the more it's a breeding ground for new variants that will inevitably get to us. That's bottom line. And we're creating a situation in the world where it's just we're begging the virus to mutate and mutate and mutate. And inevitably it's going to crack through the vaccine and have real damage to people who are vaccinated. So that's cheery.
Is this like, I feel like this scroll, which is amazing, but I think it goes on for like another 20
minutes.
Gosh,
should we just kill the scroll? It's almost too much. All right, let's just do real quick. Cure cancer. Yeah, he's going to cure cancer. Okay. Yeah, sure. Sure. Good. Okay. That should be the burning thing, because you're going to cure cancer. Okay. First off, cancer is not one cancer. There are like 1,000 kinds of cancer, and there's no way to possibly cure cancer all at once. You got to cure this one and that one and the others, but that's science.
But it won't be available to people because we don't have Medicare for all. He's going to veto Medicare
it's
for
irrelevant.
all. He's going to cure it, but he's not going to make it available to you.
Yeah. Decriminalize marijuana and expunge the records. He fired his own staff who failed their drug tests over pot, yada, yada. Eliminate the racist mandatory minimums. Instead, he's expanding Trump's expansion of them. I mean, it just goes on. Abolish death penalty.
It's like, this is
okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us.
Literally, just go look up this guy's thread, because I don't want to go through 15 more of those, but he's failing us. He's failing. And these are like, these broken promises, if you look at all of them, they were almost all of them were like within the first 100 days things.
And Biden's promise on each one of these was usually insufficient to the moment and a much less broad approach than what we should have wanted or demanded, right? Like everything that he promised was a means tested half measure in comparison to, and he hasn't even fulfilled any of them. I mean, it's just horrific. And yet we're going to still get these like ridiculous headlines of how the infrastructure bill is the most progressive bill that we've had in 40 years. And I don't even know if that's true. If it is, it's because the last 40 years have sucked so hard. They've destroyed our country. So one way or the other, it's just a nightmare.
But they're already, see, this is the problem, is that they're already spinning that all these progressive things that he's doing because he's the most progressive guy on earth. He's the FDR part due, are affecting his polls, but he's doing them anyway. But they're the progressive wing is hurting the Democratic Party.
That's
is the spin.
It's like the peeling the layers, right? So first they say he's the most progressive Democrat since FDR, which is a lie. Then they say because he's so progressive, his numbers are going down. Finally, progressives are realizing Biden's doing their bidding, which is bullshit. No progressive thinks that. But then, and this, comes back to your point last week where you said, every time that anybody in the squad says we give him an A+, he's exceeding our expectations, what they're doing is deflating the left and they're trying to silence people. And what we all need to be doing is shouting in the streets, because he's not doing any of those things. And then to have the media not only pump him up as a big progressive, but say that because he's such a progressive, that's why his numbers are going down. It's like gaslighting times 2.
Right. And it goes hand in hand with them, the whole Democratic Party trying to justify not supporting defund the police. Their narrative is that defund the police harms Democrats, which is okay. So first off, you said, the whole Democratic Party got behind this idea that police brutality and is out of control, and the base is the black voters are the Democratic Party's base. Well, black voters are pretty much the top supporters of defund the police, and here they are, Democratic Party now are running away from defund the police. They're telling the public that it's a toxic political position to hold, instead of explaining what defund the police actually means, which everyone supports it once you explain it. Once you say it means outsourcing roles that the police shouldn't have to groups like social services that should be doing some of these calls, instead of, someone without not that a college degree means anything, but somebody without training in these areas, somebody who
instead of viewing the communities that you are policing as the enemy, you can help support them and guide them through their worst moments, right? So, I mean, to me, that's what defund the police is at its best. Yes, sometimes some people need police. I don't know. That's other people can talk about that. But there's a lot of times that police are called into situations where they don't need an armed guard. They need a social worker, as you said. They need somebody to help diffuse the situation, to help navigate really difficult interpersonal relationships or mental breakdowns, which, goes into our whole war machine and our not having Medicare for all and a million other things. But instead of explaining that with any nuance, they're going to take the crime rates that have gone up as people come out of lockdown, but they've gone up in every city, major city, across the board, whether they've defunded the police or not, and say, well, this is why we need more police.
Well, and it never addresses racism directly, because, a lot of the racist groups, the white nationalist groups in this country, have literally plotted, and it's out in the open, to join the police force. And that's why we have such racist police forces. So the Democrats' answer is to actually spend more money on policing. And that money, in theory, goes to training sessions. And are you going to train a white nationalist on how to respond to a a black man with
domestic abuse or
domestic.
or somebody having a
No,
breakdown or anything.
they're bringing their racism into the situation, and especially if they're a white nationalist who joined the police force literally to infiltrate the police force,
Right.
and they have a home within the police force with 10 buddies who all agree with whatever terrible thing they do in every situation with someone of color. That training means butt kiss.
Yeah. Bupkis.
Butt kiss. All right.
Bupkis.
All right.
As the resident Jew, Bupkis.
Let's move on to who said it.
Who
do you suppose said it? Where's my graphic? Oh, I have a graphic here.
You got okay, good.
Can you read that?
Can we add also? I mean, I want to do it in the crazy tones of a coked up vegan. Can we add also that every senator here wants to defund the police, believes in God, country, and apple pie? Thank you.
Right. So this is someone before the Senate voting on an amendment. Was the amendment? I don't even know what the amendment was to. Was it to
the ridiculousness from what Tuberville, whatever his name is, some Republican who put up a defund the police. We're going to ban defunding the police.
Yeah. So this person is making the argument that everyone in the Senate wants to defund the police, believes in God. Do they? Like, do you have to vote? Believes in country? I mean, yeah, sure, an apple pie. But the key thing here is defund the police. It's Democrats all getting on board to say that they agree with not defunding the police.
Right. But again, like, this is where, okay, yeah, go ahead. We'll do our big reveal. Which I forgot. Who could say something gross thing like this?
One of my favorites here. Here we go.
And I will tell you right now, thank God, because there's some people who have said that they're members of this deliberative body that want to defund the police, to my horror. And now this senator has given us the gift that finally, once and for all, we can put to bed this scurrilous accusation that somebody in this great esteemed body would want to defund the police. So let all of us, 100 people, not walk, but sashay down there and vote for this amendment and put to rest the lies. And I am sure I will see no political ads attacking anybody here over defund the police. And I would ask unanimous consent to add something else to this obvious bill. Can we add also that every senator here wants to defund the police, believes in God, country, and apple pie? Thank you.
Ugh.
Let me get
God, that to my stomach. So that's what happens when you don't have an ideology, because there is a way to make fun of Republicans for all of that without signing on to it and saying it's so ridiculous that you would think that any Democrat wants to defund the police or doesn't believe in God and apple pie. And instead of making the case, as you've said on this show tonight and many times before, there's a way to explain defund the police for people who are offended by the terminology, to make it palatable for those people who haven't delved a little deeper. And instead of doing that ever on any level, somebody like Cory Booker is going to get up there and say, you all are so ridiculous that you're going to act like Democrats want to defund the police, or that we don't believe in God, or that we don't like stand up and pay tribute to our military, and that we don't love apple pie. We are just as all-American, true blue, MAGA as all of you. That's basically what he's saying.
Right. It's going back to Democrats are tough on crime too. It's the same scenario again. We're back to the same bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really too bad, because there is nuance. And listen, a lot of people don't love the terminology defund the police. A lot of liberals and Democrats, and even some of them who came out and marched Black Lives Matter. But 4 years ago, a lot of people, those same people, honestly thought Colin Kaepernick maybe shouldn't be kneeling. It's disrespectful, and there's always room to criticize the message. But the truth is, if you agree with the overall message, that's the tack you should take, not criticizing the message. Like, go out there and explain what it is. Explain why Colin Kaepernick was kneeling, because now all the same people who had something to say about Black Lives Matter means that, you know, white lives don't matter. Those were the same people who didn't like that Colin Kaepernick was kneeling. They're the same people who think that defund the police is really outrageous. And again, like, I don't, nobody consulted me on a lot of these terminologies. No, but they shouldn't. Don't give a fuck about me. I'm not out there doing all the work. And I can explain why all of those terminologies are actually okay, because what they stand for is something I think we can all get behind. And so if you're not trying to push the cause, if you're just tone policing the message, you're on the wrong side, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but defund, all the people poo-pooing defund as a slogan don't understand that activists have a different role than politicians. So activists need to channel outrage. They need to get people to get behind something. They need to motivate people. And so a politician could say, look, I like to call it this. They can do whatever they want with it, but defund the police was effective in getting people out in the street and understanding the importance of taking the money away from police officers, police
forces.
Yeah, taking it away from them and giving it to other groups. It's not that fucking complicated. And as a politician, your whole job is messaging. Your whole job is selling ideas. And this idea that, well, that doesn't play well, so let's just all say we're running away from it. I mean,
there was one candidate who ran on defund the police. One, Cori Bush.
Yeah.
And she won. Only one in the whole nation, and she won.
And she won despite the entire Democratic Party wanting her to lose.
Right.
Right. And, you know, not to, I know some people don't think the Capitol display recently was enough, but she did, in my opinion, with that action in front of the Capitol, get the eviction moratorium extended, which, you know, it was extended for 90% of people. I mean, I don't know where that number comes from, but that's the spin on it.
Right.
But it was an action that embarrassed the White House into acting. And I think we can say it wasn't enough. And I think that's fine that people are mad that it wasn't enough, because especially some people are in that 10%. And if you're in that 10%, who gives a fuck about 90%, you know? But it was something that wasn't going to happen without her doing it. So, you know, I'm not one of these people that gives up entirely on the people fighting for us. I agree. I don't, but I also, you know, I don't think anyone who criticizes them, if you're criticizing them, I think that I've said this over and over again, but that helps their cause, because it helps them make the case for why they got elected. It helps them make the case for why, you know, the progressive wing of the party, which is a bigger percentage than people think, needs some representation. And without us screaming at them, they can't scream at Pelosi. They can't, not that she cares, but I mean, you know.
No, but you're right. It gives them room. Like that's actually our job. You know, that's why I don't understand the people online who are trying to protect the squad from our criticism. My criticism of the squad is not going to make people not vote for her or whatever. What it might do is let her know that a portion of her constituency isn't happy with as much as, you know, the level of fight she's bringing to Congress. And I feel like we're necessary in her tenure in Congress. If we're not there, then she's only answering to the corporate donors. So that's our, like, if we accept it, that's actually our job. That's our most useful way of helping affect change.
If we were all sitting back and saying to the squad, they're doing great, I give you an A+, or, you know, in the same way that they were to Democrats, they would not do, they wouldn't have the, I'm not saying that they wouldn't keep pursuing these policies, but they wouldn't have the same strength. We give them more power by critiquing them. Yes. They can go to Democrats and say, look, If you care about winning, which unfortunately the Democrats don't really care about winning,
Right.
but it does give them some leverage to say your constituents, your voters support these issues. They're screaming at me. We must support them.
Yep.
I don't know.
100%. And Jim, I'm seeing your post here, and I totally agree with you. The fact that our police officers, a huge percentage, a majority, but beyond that percentage, does not live in the neighborhoods they patrol, that's an enormous part of the problem. They're not serving their own communities, and they view them as the enemy. And that's, they should not be in battle against the people they're patrolling. They should be feeling they're there to be part of them and protect and serve. I agree.
Yeah, totally. All right, what do we got? Let's see. Oh, let's move on to, because we've already been here an hour.
We're here forever.
I would believe me. I get sick of me after like 10 minutes. So an hour is holy shit.
Funny.
All right,
fast and loud and funnier. Let's go.
So we watched it, so you don't have to. All right, so give me a second.
Where's our video? What?
We have some technological problems here, which I can solve. But so our we watched Bill Maher this week, which, goddamn, it's the second time I've watched Bill Maher for this cursed show, which almost makes me want to end the show because it's just
rough.
too fucking much.
It's a lot.
So
and now we're gonna force you all to watch a little bit of it with us.
We're gonna show you. We're gonna show you like 3 minutes of the show, but
hang in there. This is time to pour another one out and brace yourselves.
Take a break. I mean, personally, I'm gonna go drain the beer, but do your thing, whatever it is, and here you go.
Okay.
As soon as I hit play.
Up volume. Turn it up.
Louder?
I can't hear it at all. I don't know if people can hear it. I feel like maybe you got to do a thing.
Viewers, can you hear this?
Can anybody
hear
it? Normally I can hear it. Something's going on that's weird. Can you press pause and try it again? No, can't hear. All right, 1 second.
Okay, you guys can't hear that for some reason. What the hell? All right, this is going to be difficult to do because I don't know. It should have been.
If for some reason it's not, we can still talk about it.
All right,
quick recap.
I'm going to try it one more time, but I don't think it's going to probably work. Let's see.
All right, let's see.
Oh, you know what? Here's what I'll do. Let's talk about it for a second, and I will upload it in a different format here while we kill some time.
Uploading it in a different format, I'm going to basically talk about what's so frustrating about this, and then we can talk about it afterwards, which is Malcolm Nance, who is a big Democrat establishment CIA guy, right? But I'll live. It's Bill Maher. He's the same pretentious douchebag. Let's go Count Monte Cristo. So Malcolm Nance as the sort of like nominal left side of the party, but Bill Maher brings on Ben Shapiro, and I say this all the time. I don't know Republicans. I don't watch Republicans. I don't know a lot about Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk or all these like kind of gross people on the right because I feel like they're already lost causes to me. But every time somebody like Bill Maher has one of these kinds of people on his show, the way he did with Milo, I can't remember his last name, or Ann Coulter, or any of these far right people that he kind of normalizes on his show and shows like, hey, there's some community here and we all agree, which, on some level I agree with if they come to our side. If I say, like, listen, we pay a lot in taxes, we need Medicare for all, we need to cancel student debt, we're the richest country in the world, we need to take care of our people. If a far right person or a Joe Rogan or anybody comes over to our side and says, like, yeah, I agree with that, then I'm like, great, we've broadened our tent without diluting our message or changing our policies. When you bring on somebody like Shapiro, who is not changing his disgusting right-wing message, but somehow you make him feel palatable to your rich, privileged, liberal viewership, that to me, you're really doing a disservice.
Yeah, and the video is not going to play, but that's why the segment's called "We Watch This." You don't have to, so you can think us twice, because you don't even have to watch. You don't even have to watch 2 minutes of it. But it was absolute trash, and Lila's right. I mean, the point with Bill Maher is that he brings on the worst people on the right and agrees with them half the time, which normalizes their views. I mean, you look at all the Twitter discourse right now about this red-brown alliance, but none of these people are going after Bill Maher for having Ben Shapiro on and agreeing with him on half of his argument about critical race theory. You know, I got some quotes from it. So here are some Bill Maher quotes that he just leaked in there during the show. Right. And they're subtle. They're not his main argument, but he says them. One of them was, defunding the police will get people killed.
That was
right?
Bill Maher.
Bill Maher said that out of his own mouth. It was just a passing line. It was like underneath his breath, kind of like as somebody else responded. Speaking of COVID, he downplays COVID. I mean, he takes it serious. He says you should take COVID seriously, but then jokes about it and says things like, I hope we don't go nuts about a new variant. There's always going to be a new variant. So it's like,
live with it, poor people.
It's the same sort of centristy, middle of the road bullshit. And he's enabling these people on the rights.
Yep.
On the right. He says there's a QR code for menus. You know, he's mocking QR code for menus, which is like, it's a safety thing. You can mock it if you want, but like not touching menus, if you're going to have the public open, you should want that, you know? So he doesn't have this, there's no nuanced argument about it. It's just, this is silly, stupid stuff, you know? Oh, this is why Democrats lose. So he's basically always making the argument for why Democrats
need to move further right.
Move right, but even if it's the wrong idea, they should move right because Republicans see this stuff as silly, which he kind of agrees with. It's kind of silly, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can't believe I used to watch him and enjoy him because he's a detriment. He really is. What he does is, and it's like all centrist establishment people, is they punch left while propping up the right. And, you know, again, I keep going back, and I know we're not supposed to keep relitigating the past, but the truth is, if we had truly like litigated what happened in 2016 between Hillary and Bernie, it might not have happened again in 2020 between Bernie and Biden and the whole DNC. It might not have happened again just last week between Nina and Chantel Brown. Like, we've got to come to terms with what the establishment does to the left and how mainstream media and corporate media and all of these people conspire together to crush the left. And Bill Maher is part of that. You know, he's going to play nice with some disgusting person like Shapiro, which, by the way, when you have Shapiro on and then you have Malcolm Nance, who's supposed to be to his left, that makes, you know, it's like that meme of, like, you know, how we keep moving further to the right. Malcolm Nance is a pretty far right person in my view, but when you have Shapiro on, it makes him look like he's the liberal.
So Malcolm Nance is literally, I don't know if he's CIA or what he is, but he's a counterterrorism intelligence agent. And that's what he's done his whole life. His whole thing is, the only reason anyone knows his name is he pushed a lot of the Russia stuff. So he was propagandist number one, essentially, for the Democratic Party when it comes to Russiagate stuff. He on Twitter land, that's his whole thing. So of course they bring up Russia some more, and they argue with Shapiro about fascism and Russia coming in here, and
then critical race theory. They did a whole critical race theory thing. That was that segment that we didn't get to show you, but it was all critical race theory, where basically, and this is the crazy thing, is that Shapiro says, well, critical race theory would say that it's against meritocracy, but Malcolm Nance, didn't you get to where you are, this high-level Democratic operative, based on your own merits? And I mean, how could Malcolm Nance not respond to that in the affirmative and say, well, yeah, I mean, I did work really hard. So now they're both on the same side on this, completely forgetting about what they're supposed to be talking about, which is systemic racism, which has resulted in this mass inequality between white people and Black people, or people of color, because it's not just Black people in our country.
Yeah, and at one point, Malcolm Nance says something anti-defund the police, which was part of the clip. But that's my point, is that there's this whole defund the police thing that Democrats want to pretend they aren't a part of, and it gets amplified. So you watch these comedy, this comedy/politics shows, and they all add to the narrative that it's bad for Democrats if you run on defund the police. But Shapiro, the problem with a guy like Shapiro is you have a guy like him on, you should push back on a lot of terrible things he's done in his life. And not once did Bill Maher agreed, I swear to God, like 90% with.
And so did Malcolm Nance, who was supposed to be the opposition, who's also far right. Like, it's all just a disaster. It's
a mess. And Bill Maher, I mean, if you want to talk about someone canceled, it should be Bill Maher. Bill Maher, people on the right point to Bill Maher for the hypocrisy. Like, at one point, Bill Maher called Trump a fatso. Like, okay, you're a comedian, I'll give you some leeway, when there's hypocrisy, like when Trump is talking about, stuff about women and saying that women, he's mocking their looks or weight, whatever. Yeah, it's hypocrisy. You can point it out, but he just calls him a fatso. He just says fatso. Like, I mean,
I know
it's not the worst, but it's like
there's like substantive stuff you could call him out on, not that he's eats too many.
Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, no reason anyone should watch. I used to watch a show. I used to enjoy that they would have someone from the right. They would occasionally have progressives on too. But now, like, we're like, literally this entire show was Bill Maher, Ben Shapiro, and a guy from the CIA.
That's the left. That's the left.
That's the whole discussion right there.
Yeah. It's sick.
So you didn't watch it. Good for you if you didn't watch
it. You. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Do we have a good thing? Do we have anything good?
Let's end on something good here. We do have one good thing. Here we go. One good.
And I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing. And therefore, that's what I'll do. Because I work for you. And doing the right thing is doing the right thing for you. Because as we say, it's not about me, it's about we. Kathy Hochul, my lieutenant governor, is smart and competent. This transition must be seamless. We have a lot going on. I'm very worried about the Delta variant, and so should you be. But she can come up to speed quickly, and my resignation will be effective in 14 days.
I cannot imagine a more repulsive speaker. Like, if I tried, that is out of Central Casting. That feels like the slimy uncle who slides his hand up your shirt and squeezes your boob and pretends it's just because he's Italian.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't help but look over at the guy signing in the corner, and I'm just looking for the hand grabs, and that's who he is, like he's and we said this already, but none of this is new. Like he's been up against these allegations forever.
Yeah.
Like,
and and again, like the allegations are horrible and they should be career ending no matter what. But I do think 30,000 deaths are even worse. I mean, sorry to like have to, but like that should have ended his whole tenure. And instead he got to write a book and win an Emmy on how he handled COVID.
He was going to be our next president. I mean, you had, I'm not bringing in podcasters, but you got Emma, from TYT.
All the homosexuals, they love
the Cuomo-sexuals were like they were throwing their panties on stage for
men and women.
Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah.
Who was killing old people in New York by handling COVID irresponsibly the entire time.
To expand Medicaid during a global pandemic, cutting the financing for hospitals and PPE. I mean, I don't understand. And here, like, again, like after a while, I feel like I just keep saying the same thing over and over. And I know, like, Bernie was always called out and like, he's been saying the same thing for 40 years. But, if you have an ideology and you know what you stand for, it's really clear. And so when you see people like this, you're like, he's just a fucking asshole jackass who doesn't care if he kills, tens of thousands of people every year. And so, I'm going to end my own thing on this, which is when I look at anybody who supported Elizabeth Warren, like Katie Porter, I have a really hard time ever sharing any of her, whiteboard stuff. Because I feel like you knew what the stakes were 2 years ago and you supported Elizabeth Warren instead of there was one person who was actually fighting for all of us, and anything under that, you were consigning us all to die. So I don't care what you do anymore. Fuck all of you.
That should be our outro every time.
Cheers.
Not to our audience, because
I love you guys. I love you guys.
But yeah, no, I agree. How can you not agree? I mean, to me, the biggest black eye, okay, obviously Democrats are a mess, and the fact that they supported this guy Cuomo for so long, despite all his open corruption, despite literally forming a group of Republicans to kill progressive policy in New York, like that should be, hey, you're out of the party. That's pretty clear to most people.
What do we stand for? What do you stand for?
It's pretty clear he should have been gone, but to me, the bigger sin in a way is the media, because the media is our protection against these people is the media. And instead of calling out how bad he was handling New York, he literally got a platform to be on TV every day, to be the hero of New York. And there's a lot of stuff coming out about his brother, how he propped him up and defended him and whatever. But CNN obviously and MSNBC, they all propped him up as this hero response to Trump. And he was one of the biggest douchebags we've ever known. And everyone knew he was that guy, and they still propped him up.
Yeah. So. They propped him up, and they smeared his accusers, as they did with Weinstein, as they did with Biden, as they did with Clinton. And that's a travesty.
Yep.
That said,
let's end on this. Lol Fredo, those wacky Corleones.
Oh, yes, that is the truth.
All right.
That's the truth.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.
Cheers. Hey,
Pat, enjoy the rest of your vacation. God damn it.
Thank you. I will. There's wine in this coffee cup. And thanks all to watching. Pat, thanks for putting everything together. And I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Night, everyone.
Night.